or?
Are we going on the air for this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to.
What's the number down there?
1321.
Oh, we're on.
All right, cool. You're good, Simca.
Thank you.
I need to find my glasses because before I can open this meeting. Sorry. No, I have mine. You keep yours. I don't want you to go blind into this. Welcome to this regularly advertised meeting of the Public Transportation Advisory Committee of the town of Newmarket. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, and we have a almost full house. We're missing one of our members. I don't know if anybody here.
There she is.
There's Madeline. Very good. We have a full house. I'm so glad to see you. And we'll start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you lead us, Mr. Hoffman? Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is a review of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? If not, then we'll take 5 minutes to do so, and if there are any edits or comments, please feel free. And thank you for leading the meeting, Madeline, at the last time. That was very kind of you.
I had some very good help and assistance.
I apologize for missing it. Are there anything noteworthy in the minutes that you would like to see corrected? If not, then I'll take a motion to approve.
I do have one correction.
Okay, very good.
I promise you I did not move to adjourn the meeting at 7:28 PM. That would have been awesome. It was 8:28 PM.
8:28, very good. Duly
Efficient
noted.
meeting.
We'll make that
We've
change.
got a whole lot of questions
Yeah.
in 28 minutes.
That was probably before we sprang.
We got
Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you very much. Minutes are approved as corrected. Now on to regular business. We'll talk about the transportation chapter of the master plan. It's come so far. Thank you to our illustrious guests who are here to help us see through it. Do you have anything that you would like to
Yeah.
to say to jumpstart the chapter, or how shall we approach this?
Don't think we had anything specific to talk
Okay.
about. We've incorporated all the edits from board members and from Bart.
Yeah.
And we presented it to the master plan committee a little while ago, and they're going to get us comments back. So seems like it's in pretty good shape. We can talk about other things if other things came up since we last met.
There were a couple of notes still in the version that I...
Yeah, I forgot to put the comments up when I PDF'd it, so it's
Yeah.
I mean it's still a draft form, so so that's my
The
apology.
executive summary that is going to be included in the chapter, who is going to be, you guys are going
We still need to write
that? Okay.
Yeah, once we've gotten additional edits from, well, should we shoot for an executive summary to submit? Maybe we can do that early next week or the end of this week to send to you all, if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, I think
That's too hard at this point.
maybe the best approach would be, SRPC work on the executive summary. Meanwhile, we all review this document again. We'll submit comments, get them all incorporated, and we'll have a nice new document in April to look at. And then maybe send it away at that point.
Yep, and fine tooth comb for
Yep.
spelling mistakes and all these kinds of things.
Yep.
There's it's something. There's something that irks when one reads a chapter in a master plan, and there are these simple mistakes, and wonder, like, did nobody read that?
Well,
You know,
for something
but-
happened, I think, when it got to you, where a bunch of the words with a double F only had one for some reason. And I promise we did not forget the double Fs.
No,
like Stratford, like our own.
it seemed
Something
it seemed
weird
odd
happened in the transfer.
Yes,
So
yeah.
those were didn't require to be fixed. So
well-
some of those edits were something happened. I don't know, with
Right.
a Mac or something, but.
Yeah.
But the grammatical things I incorporated, the ones definitely.
And
And
the master plan committee has to agree on village core language for all
Right.
of the chapters.
yeah,
Yeah, what are we gonna call it? Yeah.
Yeah.
and I
What are the options besides calling it the village core?
I don't know, maybe it's a good discussion point
Does
right
it
now.
sound too
Yeah.
technical? Village core? Is that the?
Like village, I don't know, like. Village.
There is a historic district, but that actually incorporates
Yeah.
too much up the hill to as well.
I
Yeah.
don't, it's not necessarily a downtown,
Yeah, I like village core
like core.
better than.
I failed to
downtown
ask
myself.
about that at the
Yeah.
last meeting, but
It's okay.
Yeah, that does sound better to me.
But I'm
Village
I'm fine
center.
with just about any language there.
so I think the newest version of the chapter has a bit more data that Mark put in there, and then I polished up
The appendix is
the appendix with some examples of like traffic calming techniques and some visualizations there. But otherwise, the text is fairly similar to the last one. So
Okay.
we cleaned up some of the citations. The little stuff you're talking about.
Yeah. That's the stuff that you kind of wait till to the end and then, oh, out of time. Does the appendix include an example of a traffic circle or roundabout, perchance?
it does not, but I can put some of those in there.
I think it would be nice,
That's a good idea. Yep.
since there's some possibility that we might see that in the future.
Yep.
Might as well put in a rail station too while you're there.
Hopeful, ever hopeful.
I found some
I'll die on that hill.
that were seemed applicable.
Okay. Is there any other discussion regarding the transportation chapter that we should have right now that we want to make sure goes into the ears of the writers? Anything glaring that's missing?
And it doesn't have to be answered now. It could always be, you
Yeah.
know, email.
Excellent. Then, if that's okay with you and you don't have anything that you need from us in regards to the,
We do
Chap-
want to talk about the parking study.
Yep.
That's nice.
yeah, but the chapter, that's good, you have what you need, you feel like, wow, this is moving along, we have a good chapter here,
Pretty darn close.
yeah.
So, we've talked up this parking study a number of times at these meetings. So
Yes.
we are pedal to the metal now. We went out yesterday in the 60 degrees and confirmed all of the study area. And confirmed all of the study area. As Bart pointed out an hour ago, it looks like a dinosaur. So,
A little bit, yeah, you're right.
So we are on the hunt for volunteers. The master plan committee suggested we will slap together a form for anybody interested to figure out availability in the month of April. We want to make it work for the volunteers. We just want bodies. It's the gist of it is it's a 20-minute pass through of the however many routes we'll come up with across all the different lots. So once an hour, you'll do a walkthrough and record license plates. I don't know if there's any of the forms still up there, if they all got taken home.
They all got taken?
Oh,
You
okay.
have one?
Yourselves or whoever ends up volunteering, you'll record license plates just to see who's sticking around,
So-
who's following the rules based on the
Yep.
signage that's posted, and we'll take it from there. So we will obviously have a briefing, a pre-meeting to figure out how the forms will work and the lay of the day, and we'll have a water station or a main hub somewhere downtown. But anyone who's interested, please reach out to one of us.
Do you have specific dates yet?
No,
Okay.
we will get a form together to figure out the best Thursday, Friday, Saturday, most likely to get it together.
I know that kids in the high school need volunteer hours.
That'd be
And this
amazing.
may be a really good way to get some of those.
That
for
would
them.
be fantastic. Yeah. If that could get pushed out, that'd be great. We'll also be looking to the UNH Planning Club, and one of the reasons we need to do this in April is while UNH is still in session. So, yeah, anyone we can get.
Does UNH have a ASCE chapter in their civil engineering department? Because if they do, you could.
I would think they would.
might-
They must.
Yeah,
That would be a good place to.
They've got a strong,
Civil
change
program.
over, mixing up my gens, but yeah, they have an engineering department there that I've had contacts with for engineering students.
Yeah.
And we, with the, it was Ellen at the previous meeting, they had a good idea of just pick a day for this, because we want one weekday and one weekend day for the study to collect data.
And we'll get more detail if there's the amount of volunteers that justify that. So,
Do you have anything that's written up that one could pass on to the
We
folks at
were-
the high school?
we'll try to get a flyer out tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
That did come up internally this afternoon that we realized we actually had no outreach for it
Yeah.
yet. So we will crank that out.
So I
Okay.
have, yeah, I'm pretty close to finished with a example for summer's work. We're doing a similar thing where what we had for the previous meeting was the routes. So it'll actually have a step-by-step with pictures route. Say there are 4 routes in Newmarket, we would want 2 people per route at a minimum, so you can switch off every hour. And so there'll be a chunk of a weekday and a chunk of a weekend day. For every hour, each route is walked. License plates are written down. Every hour, those data sheets would come to me. I'll be stationed here or some central location, and then we'll put in those numbers and see, okay, same license plate was in that one spot for 5 hours or the whole day, or that sort of thing. So
Jackson at our office has done dozens of these in the private sector prior to working for us at SRPC. So he's very plugged in and he has us on a system. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the more specificity you have as far as the instructions and
Yes.
and for the outreach, I think the better,
That's
especially
the
when we're talking about high school students.
Yes.
They like to have
Yes.
clear instructions. Feels good. I think you will be, as long as it's not during the last week in April, which is school vacation week,
Got it.
um,
Got it. Okay.
might be, I mean, actually, that might be easier then. I don't know. Could
think
could
that-
go either way. I
School
won't be-
vacation week, I believe this year is the last 2 days of April going into May.
Yeah. It's-
But yeah, we'll see what we hear back from volunteers and go from there.
I think that's skewed the data. We should avoid that week as much as possible.
Okay.
Oh, because of the change in the traffic pattern or
Yep.
the use of-
Behavior pattern
the plan is
changes.
to have all of April reserved as a data collection.
Okay.
Okay.
All we need is one weekday and one weekend day during the month of April. And it can't be raining because we're talking about paper sheets on clipboards, so it's just the next day in April.
Okay.
So we'll, good idea about the vacation weeks, and then I don't think UNH has a similar thing.
No.
No.
They bookend April.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So you'll send any outreach
Yes.
to the committee and then
That'll
we-
be by the end of this week for sure.
Okay. And anybody who would like to volunteer should just contact you.
Please. Yeah.
Obviously, that'll be in the outreach material.
Please.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
You look like you were going to say something.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Brilliant.
anything else for us, Corey?
No, I think I'm good. I think this is great. I'm hoping that we can move this along. We really have a lot of volunteers to help out.
We're
because
excited.
It's a fun thing to do.
We love getting out of the office. So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. The next item on our agenda is a discussion on wayfinding.
Lead this.
Art, you sent out something that you had found.
Yeah. In Ohio. Yeah.
And I'm sure that we all have encountered some good or bad examples of
Yeah.
approaches to wayfinding in our lifetime. So
Yeah, I mean,
How should we approach this?
I think it's just a discussion on maybe, this is maybe one of our next tasks, because
Yeah.
what's coming up in the master plan is a lot of wayfinding issues. You know, so it's one of, I would say, the largest themes, I think, in a lot of the chapters is,
Good night.
is, you know, directing people where to go. And especially in our downtown village corridor. I guess what I want to do is just collect examples and maybe have a discussion on what do we want on these signs, right now, and just start right there. You know, we can work on design and whatnot later, but what's more important, I think, right now is establishing a baseline. What do we want? Where do we want people to go? What do we want on these signs? And how do we communicate distance? Do we do it by time element? Do we do it by mileage? Probably more likely mileage or distance, some kind of measurement. And where do we want to put these? And then I think right there, we just start the conversation there. So I guess, just open a discussion there. You know, what we have is, these examples from Mansfield, Ohio, is like consistent signage for municipal buildings, parks, and also actual wayfinding itself on the right of way. So I just want to get people's opinion on, maybe we just start discussing, where should these be located and what do we want on them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I can go into that conversation right away without understanding how comprehensive do we want this to be? Is this for drivers? Is this for people who are walking through town? Is this both? Does this, how do we look at this? And is this something that we would want to plan out comprehensively and then implement over time? Or do we want to try it out in a place and see what the response is, rather than going through the effort of, creating a town-wide branding approach, if you will, which seems like it would be a smart place to start as far as the design is concerned. But where do we want to place these, and why, and for whom?
I think for my initial thoughts on that, it would be in the parking areas in the downtown. So as you approach downtown, you'll see those. If I'm coming from Durham, I'll have maybe one sign to welcome me. Hey, you're in Newmarket, instead of that green strip that the state puts up. So something that's welcoming, or just something that catches your eye. You're in a new town, and then probably somewhere near there, it would be downtown this way, parking coming up, Dam Road is coming for parking, the parking lot. That's subject change, but anyways, just some kind of major destination indication after that welcoming.
And I think since parking is such an issue, and people bring that up all the time, and it seems to be tricky to find parking once you've driven through Main Street and you realize, oh, there's no on-street parking, where do I park? And maybe that's a place to start.
Yep.
Especially once we have our parking study, we can maybe take that as a next step. And the parking doesn't necessarily have to be branded, or the parking signs don't necessarily have to be branded the same way either, as the rest of the wayfinding signs.
Right. I think right now what's most pressing, as you said, is parking. Where's parking located? And I think, how long does it take from someone, or how far is it to walk from that parking area to downtown? I think that needs to be communicated, because there's a misperception, I think, on how long things take and how far things are from these satellite areas.
Yeah. And what do you guys think about? So we have the wayfinding that is for drivers. And then we have, at least that's the way I thought about it, wayfinding for people who got out of their cars and now, are looking for a place or looking for something to do. And I think for drivers, distance might be the way to go, because that's what we're used to seeing. But I think for people who are walking or bicycling, a time may be a better way to approach it.
Quite honestly, I've got to go over, for walkers, I would say distance. I might walk
Right.
a mile and a half in 20 minutes, and somebody else might walk in a half an hour.
That's true, yeah. Or you could always have both, I guess.
There's also the idea in most signage that less is more, so you don't want to have too cluttered a sign,
Right.
too much material on there. So maybe in some cases, distances aren't necessary, but in some cases they are. So it might be that it are case-by-case examples, and certainly signage for drivers is different than signage for pedestrians, different size fonts and things of that sort. I do like the idea of having it branded, that it looks like this is a town informational thing rather than advertising.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us kind of tune out advertising. And, that's why we look for regulatory signs, the way they're shaped and colored. We know that's important versus whatever that store was back there. So I do like the branding of it. I will say that I do believe that only the locals know where the parking is, and our guests oftentimes don't know where they can park in. Many of our people who live in town don't know where they can park
Right.
up at Panzanellas. Probably most of us don't have a good idea exactly where you can park in that parking lot, and it's not signed well at all.
No, that's, I was going to say that that's an issue, it's not signed well. I think parking is an important thing to have signage for, clearly, because I think, quite honestly, that there are people who pass through town and then either continue on to Durham or Portsmouth because they can't find a place to park, and, it's unfortunate because there are, but my question, I understand wayfinding, but my question is, what parts of town are you trying to direct people to? I have to be honest, I figured out where things are. I was thinking to myself, is there anything at the end of Great Hill Terrace that says the rec center is down there? I should know that because I walk by it all the time. But because I do, I'm not looking for a sign, so I am not a good person, so it has to be somebody who has no idea. And I guess we have to get a stranger to walk around town and try to figure out where things are.
Signs for the parks would be nice as well.
Yeah.
Or any public space like that.
Yeah.
Like for the conservation areas,
Yeah,
too,
for the
like that.
I think some of them, like, people might not know whether or not they're allowed to be there,
a lot of
Agreed.
trails. Yep. But I think the conservation areas, having them something marked, because that was something I know that, I figured out when I was first trying to find where various trails were. People would say, oh, the Sweet Trail, it's here. And then you wander around looking.
Right. And you might find it.
That's why I think branding's important, because you wouldn't even have to read it to understand this is a space, a public space. Just by just the pattern and the color, and you see multiple of them eventually, you know that this is a place I can be probably.
Yeah.
So
Along with this, something that's been bantered around for probably more than 20 years is an informational kiosk. And some of this could be, I've kind of thought in my own head of maybe a 6 or 8 sided structure that things could be, maybe some permanent signs, but maybe something else. I mean, I really don't like the idea of monitors, but, maybe a bulletin board, maybe a municipally controlled sign that you could put in there.
yeah,
But, I don't know, it's just been bantered about that we should have some informational kiosks.
I think there could be opportunities to do that. I'm not sure about electronic, but
I don't like that myself.
definitely something a little more static. And it'll be good because also it becomes like a landmark too. People know exactly
meeting
eventually
place.
a meeting place. Yeah. So
Maybe it could be Arbor Park, which
that's what I was
does
thinking.
need to be renamed.
So
but
what happens if
Arborless Park.
Arborless Park, yeah, right. if, Arbor Park, and also, what happens if eventually the town or partners, were able to, the post office?
Yeah.
That could be a spot where maybe something can be fitted in,
Absolutely.
so,
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have a place with a map that, you can stand in front of and say, okay, that's here, that's.
You are here, and
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah, that's really, it makes it so much easier to place yourself.
and I wonder at these, satellite lots too, you have a mini version of that map
Mhm.
right there, so as you're walking away, you see is okay, and, I can go this way, and then you follow the directional signs, but at least you get a bird's eye view of what's to come.
I will say that the state DOT puts up the blue signs,
Yeah.
and the Stone Church could not get a blue sign because we were too hard to find. And so that was,
That seems counter.
yeah, exactly. But we did eventually get permission from the town to put up a Stone Church
Yeah.
sign on Main Street, and then he allowed us to get the blue signs, but it was, like you say, pretty ironic
Yeah.
that we can't get a directional sign because we're too hard to find.
That's funny.
I like them, I know it's kind of big, but like on page 15 here, I think these would be nice if we had these at parking lots.
Yeah.
Right here, it has one, the wayfinding, then the map. I think that's kind of neat. It doesn't maybe have to be that big, but again. So personally, I think, I subscribe to Mike's view that branding's huge. And, maybe, for our next steps is just maybe looking at locations. And then meanwhile, we start the process of maybe writing an RFP, start maybe trying to find some money for it.
I was gonna ask that.
So we have no money for it right now.
Right.
That I'm aware of. But maybe there's some grant opportunities. Meanwhile, we can start building a kind of a coalition around the idea, and then maybe start saving for it. So
I think it might also be helpful to talk to the folks at UNH to see what lessons they've learned. They've been using, wayfinding for a long time, and have, changed how they do it and where they place things and the colors and all of that kind of thing. So there may be some lessons that we can incorporate and benefit from.
Well, both Portsmouth and Dover have established programs that are good. Both of them are kind of fat SOPs on what, and I don't think we need a real fat one.
SOB?
Standard operating procedure is, I'm sorry. But this, procedure.
P.
P, I'm working on enunciation.
Got it.
But I think that, I think that they look really nice in both places. And I know the town administrator liked them as well, and he has held up on some signage from the Newmarket Main Street Corporation because he wanted to wait until we had a standard. So I think that's maybe our first step, is deciding what the branding standard is. And, maybe finding a graphic designer, or the sign shops usually have good ideas themselves. They're graphically minded and understand the importance of contrast and what kind of signs work and what kind of signs don't. And they might be able to help out, but we also might be able to get somebody like the Newmarket Main Street Corporation to help with finding graphic designers.
I think maybe the first step is doing the page 4 journey mapping.
Yes.
I think we glean off that and do it ourselves. And then we just, start putting dots on maps. And meanwhile, on the back end, we work on the design and whatnot.
I think it would also be, after mapping, it would also be fun to do a drive, bike, walk around and establish some, not the distances, but the times that it takes. Is this really something that we want to advertise people to walk toward? Is it safe to get there? Do we know that it's, a route that we want to recommend to people to take on, on a bicycle or whatever?
Yeah, I can see that. Like if you want to go, say, back way to Durham, Packers Falls,
Yeah,
this way to, to Durham,
right.
Lamprey River, the bridge.
Yeah.
So there's like some destinations not in our town, but at least if you want to go that way, explore that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Those are places you can go. So, and the idea is people continue to use that, knowing that that's the way to get to there, but they have to go through Newmarket to get there.
Is there any work at the Conservation Commission around signage that you're aware of?
Not really, no.
Or the parks?
They're more on concern of connecting
Mm-hmm.
the parks and establish interconnections between the whole town and our neighbors. I think where we would come in is, with this wayfinding exercise, and obviously work with them too, a bunch of different partners. But I'm not aware of anything that they have considered right now for signage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, does that seem like a good step to do the map exercise at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that'd be
Maybe,
fun.
fun.
could we get Stratford Regional or somebody to print up a large scale, A-sheet paper of just one-line drawing of the town?
Yeah, I think what we'd do is blow up at the downtown village center,
Yeah.
and then one at the town as well.
Village
Sounds good.
center.
Village center, yes.
Center of the metropolis.
Yeah.
Yes.
That just rolled off your tongue.
It
Village
just
core
did.
didn't. Village center just
Village
rolled off your
center.
tongue.
Yeah.
And then I have another question, which is really, is wayfinding a term that the general public understands? If we start going out and talking about
Mhm.
wayfinding,
Hmm.
I know what it means, but I don't know if the general public would,
I agree with you.
I mean,
I said I agree with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jargon that gets thrown around.
Yeah.
People.
People say things like SOP and it's like,
Yeah, I know.
I know what an SOP is. I
Yeah.
also know what an SOP is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think wayfinding sounds pretty self-explanatory, but maybe it's not. I don't know.
I think it is, even for people that aren't familiar with the term.
Yeah.
It's
Kinda
finding a way,
is
so it kind of,
explanatory.
Yeah. Or it becomes clear once you see
Well,
signs.
That is exactly the point. That once you see it, it's like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But if I were to start talking to people about wayfinding,
Mm.
because I work in the nonprofit world, my first thought was, oh, waypoint. No, waypoint's something different.
Yeah.
It's,
It really is signs, though.
Yeah.
it's signs.
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 It's signs.
So the other consideration to take into account, I think, around wayfinding is that who is going to be using it? So there are obviously the ones for drivers, that's pretty clear. And then not just the modes, but do we take into account people who are blind, for example? Do we take into, or one of the, maybe you're not blind, but you have vision issues, so make sure that the contrast, like that red on green there, for example, may be terribly hard for some
Yeah.
people
It is
to see,
Yeah.
who have some kind of color blindness. Those kinds of things, I think we should do some research on, so that we
I think
Do
our
what you
our
can.
designer will help us with that.
yeah.
Eventually we get to that point, and that's where the designer and the town come together.
Mhm.
What's the branding look like, and making sure it's accessible to all abilities.
Well,
in reading.
I just think it would be good to go out there and just look around and see what other towns have done and what's feasible. To have Braille on signs, for example, is probably pretty difficult. What are some of the issues that you might run into? Would we have an electronic version of their wayfinding so that you can use an app, or you can have it be read aloud to you so you can find your way. So there are, I think there are ways to make it accessible that doesn't necessarily include the physical sign, but you may have a QR code on there that allows you to, get the map on your phone or something to that effect. And just to explore what's possible, what's out there, so that we can, either want to decide to incorporate it or say, well, that seems a little bit too luxurious for us or
I
something.
think
to
that
that effect.
anywhere people are used to using Waze and Google, and, you know, whether you have any type of difficulty with vision or
Yeah.
hearing, that's something that everybody already has and is used to, so I think it's addressed in the electronic form already really well. And certainly we don't have to worry about vision impaired drivers much, but,
Or we do, actually.
well, we shouldn't have, we can't do too much about it. But
Yeah, right.
the concern I have with low-level signage is them being an obstruction and people hitting their heads on them. I mean, typically, we have signs 7 feet up for a reason, so that people don't hurt themselves not looking where they're going. So if they're 7 feet up, people aren't going to be able to,
Well, it's going to,
yeah, I think it's,
which is why I like, you know, those, some of them that are more like a post kind of a.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the one, like this one right here, that's kind of neat, you know, it's on an existing lamp post, so there's a lot of ways you can do it.
But I do think once it comes, if you get to that point, Future Insight, the former New Hampshire Association for the Blind, has great resources for how to make things adaptable. Plus, a lot of their folks are using technology to get around, including their CEOs. So there are resources that will be happy to help if they know we're trying to make things accessible.
Yeah, I agree. That's
So
a good
let's not
point.
reinvent the wheel.
Nope.
one thing that I mentioned to Bart that I really do like, the back of signs are usually very ugly. And this is such a great opportunity for art. It just really is. And in this case, it's just a logo. But we could have a bunch of different things that are iconic of Newmarket.
I think it depends on the sign because of distractions, you know. If it's like for the driving ones for drivers specific, maybe no, but maybe for the walkers.
Yeah.
You know, it's something we can do. Maybe for maybe the back signs. Say if there's, I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. Just we want to be mindful for the driving ones for drivers that we.
Yeah, from the driving side,
probably both sides,
you'd
yeah.
see exactly what you're supposed to see. The backside,
Yeah.
that can be something different because it's on the wrong side of the road for
Yep.
other drivers, and only pedestrians would be seeing it.
Yeah, true.
But it's a great idea to take an opportunity and turn it into something a little more
Well,
aesthetic.
like this one right here, this one's more for like walkers, and they have like this blank slate here. That's a great opportunity for like art or something, or a map, and then the other side's a piece of art. Page 16,
So,
my eyes. In the middle there, the yellow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
so maybe bring in the arts and culture and tourism.
Yes, they've talked about this, economic development committees talk about this. I mean, there's a lot of different people working on this master plan that have come to the conclusion wayfinding's needed.
Good.
Yeah.
So the other, we talked about before, the idea of, so we have obviously different audiences. We have our visitors to town, and then we have people who live in town, who may or may not know where something is new in town, or I've heard about this park, but I don't really know where it is, and or I heard that there is a park, and I don't even know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so that's an audience as well. And we also talked about an opportunity for kind of identifying neighborhoods
Yes.
by name to create more of a sense of place. We don't have to be go crazy about that, but I think that there is a way to maybe bring those two together so that it becomes easier to use wayfinding if you have identified places. It's difficult to send somebody somewhere if you can't really it's that
Little
neighborhood
village.
down,
Yeah.
down
village.
Where
there,
is
where that old tree used to be,
Right.
that kind of thing. And I think
Or
having
new village.
having names is a good thing. And I would hope that we can, maybe incorporate that into this process.
I would like that too. It creates a sense of place too.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought of something. Something I saw not too long ago was some wayfinding signs that were sponsored by different businesses. And just at the bottom, it had who sponsored the sign. It's an idea. We may not have the mass or, I think a lot of those are probably sponsored by hotels or something. You know, it might not,
I think be busy.
yeah.
I'd rather not privatize it.
Yeah, these would be little bylines at the
Yeah.
bottom, but nonetheless, I think that I just do it out there because
I think maybe there's a space to, maybe a kiosk or something, do
Right.
advertising or something like that, but
yeah,
I'm hesitant to
yeah,
open it
clutter
up to sponsorship.
Yeah,
And plus, businesses go out of business, and the sign survives.
hopefully not.
I mean, things happen.
Boom and bust, Mike.
Things happen. Okay, so start with the mapping.
Let's start with mapping exercise,
And,
yeah.
and maybe also try to identify just visually on the map some neighborhoods, and then think of a process to, to go into the neighborhoods and engage people who live there to find out what do you call where you live, or do you understand yourself as a,
So we have an opportunity to do that.
Mhm.
So we're going through this zoning exercise. So the town received $100,000 to look at opportunities to add housing throughout town. And the process that we adopted is we're going through the whole town neighborhood by neighborhood and asking them what they're comfortable with, what type of housing types they're comfortable with. So during that process, say, hey, what do you call this area? So we can incorporate that into our findings, and then we'll have some qualitative data at that point that we can.
That would be
yeah.
excellent.
So
Sounds like a very efficient way to get that info.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
bing bang boom.
No, I like that a lot because it does help to get it from the source, so to speak.
Actually, I actually went through exercise myself. I did a little map, in preparation for this. What would this area be called? Because I'm trying to make the new zoning district, if there were to be new zoning districts, more Newmarket appropriate instead of like some benign, lettering. T5, T4, T3. Calling something else that actually represents what the neighborhood is, like the Upper Narrows neighborhood, or Lumberland Creek, or Newmarket Plains. So something that's actually relevant to the town instead of making up something. So, anyway, so yeah, I'll incorporate that as one of the questions as we journey through the town.
I think that might also help us with kind of classification of roadways. Kind of an intra-neighborhood space versus one that connects neighborhoods with one another.
I think it'd be really cool to not have tax maps and zoning districts by the same letter, R1 and R1. They're completely
you.
different, but they're both
Yeah.
R1.
Right. It's under consideration.
Yeah. All right. And are we open to other examples to be brought in?
Absolutely.
Just for...
Madeline, you did an example over, was it Wilson?
Yeah, Wilson, North Carolina
Yeah.
is, it's a little town that, it's a historic town, and they do have a small college there. They're going through some revitalization. They have, the University of North Carolina's, archaeology history department is helping out with it. They have this whirligig park. That's kind of what they're
That was pretty
famous
cool, I
for.
saw
It's,
that,
it's
yeah.
an amazing whirligig park. It's probably 2 acres. These things are like 15 feet in the air, and some of them are as big as this console. It's unbelievable. But they have, in the last 5 years or so, implemented wayfinding. Their wayfinding is very simple looking. I don't know if you got to look at that link, but it's not as artistic as what Mansfield has. But it's clear. But I have to say, going into the town, so I just did this odyssey through the South, and going into all these towns, the difference with this town was it's kind of like a Dover-Durhamish town, but a little more southern rural. The wayfinding just elevated it. You felt like you were someplace. We didn't know how to get to the Whirligig Park, but we saw the signs and we followed them and went right to the Whirligig Park. We saw signs for the school in town. We saw signs for, they have an old, I don't know what that district is called. It's an old historic district that they're trying to redo the buildings in. You know, there were signs for that. So I've gone to these other towns that didn't have it, and you didn't think you were anywhere. You know? It's just kind of like a subconscious thing. But in this town, it was immediate, like, oh, I'm somewhere. These people have it together. You know, there are things to see here. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
I want to look around and find out what there is. It was just that little, I wouldn't even say it was subconscious. It was actually conscious. We were just like, oh, look at this place. But their signing was very, if you follow the link, you'll see it's almost like MUTCD. It's like a step above MUTCD, like the blue parking signs. You see, it's just a step above that. It's not as artistic as this. But the one thing that they do is, to your point, they have the verticals on the signs, they have gears on them that are in relief. I'm sure they were expensive. And then the backs of the signs, it's monochromatic. So I think it was blue and dark blue. So it's not distracting. They have the gears, the same gears on the backs of the signs to indicate, you know, they're famous for, I think, manufacturing and this whirligig stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting. It was a good thing to see.
It's great. Yeah.
You know, it's not a fancy town. It's a very simple town with a lot of history, like Newmarket. Newmarket has a lot of history. The signs brought out that history.
My sense is this could be phased as well. It doesn't have to all happen at once, and we kind of have an idea where we're going with it, but do one and, you know, next year put in a budget for another and keep on working our way down. And
Yeah, I think is maybe just first doing the map, seeing where should things go, and second is, all right, what's the first step we do? We make a recommendation to the town council, say we think this is a good opportunity, and maybe provide them with a phase plan, you know, and then, you know, I think first we'll just start up with map and then see where we go from there. And then before we get ahead of ourselves, and
has
but
Steve seen any of these examples? And he's
no, but he's very interested in doing something.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we have at least a comprehensive kind of approach.
Yes.
We may not be having it fleshed out, but we need to know, you know, what we would want to achieve ultimately, so that we don't have to dismantle signs, so we don't find ourselves, you know, having, you know, the wayfinding sign 2.0, and then, you know, 4 years later, we're like, this is really not all that great. We need to.
So that's something that should probably be incorporated, is how do these evolve?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, we're not ripping it up and replacing it. You know, how can they, you know, change with the times?
Yeah.
I think is important. That's a good
I think
idea.
there's definitely a hierarchy of needs, or, you know, you start with a macro of signs to enter the town, signs to point to parking.
Parking.
And then we start to think about signs to the municipal buildings. That's going to be, you know, one of the first things, and then signs to the parks. There's definitely a hierarchy of implementation for specific signs. But to your point, we do kind of have to know the end game.
Right.
So that we're not adding signs and saying, oh, wait a minute, you know, this wasn't quite right. We didn't want to do this.
I don't think anybody, once an investment is made to create a sign, wants to, you know, 2 years down the road
Right.
saying, oh, this was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they're expensive.
Yes.
So I do think the hierarchy, and I believe from what everyone's been saying, parking is probably,
Parking.
you know, welcome to town, and then we want you to stay, park here.
Yeah.
Because we want them to stay.
Yeah. And I think that is actually, we might even be able to do some of that preceding any true wayfinding. Once you have the entrance to the town signs, you know, just the blue MUTCD parking P sign on the main, you know, with an arrow on the main streets pointing to the satellite things before we even do any wayfinding.
We do have a couple of those. I think that's up in, if I remember right, the Dame Road lot.
It's up.
There's one there.
Good.
I think we have them at Railroad. I think that Railroad Street.
But do we have them on Main Street
No.
directing you to those signs?
We do not. Well, and the problem is there too is DOT, I think at the moment. I don't know if they would allow us to put a sign like there.
I think if we met with MUTC, if we met the spec, it would, but.
Yeah, there are stipulations that we would have to meet, and they would
Yeah. So,
likely allow it, but
And we did do the one on Weaver's Row, it does say municipal parking, and it's got the P, but it's this
it's all
big.
worn out too, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's not so much, but it's at the bottom of a
All right.
sign standard with every business on it.
Yep.
But it's the only thing that's blue, that color blue.
Yeah, we could probably think of how to improve that.
It's kind of a, you have to direct people as they're driving to parking. You know, you can't happen upon it and, you know, oh, that's a parking lot. You want people to be directed toward it, which is kind of I think the point of this wayfinding.
And the signs-
So I don't know, I'm totally, I think it makes sense to use, first of all, the blue and white signs, even if it's not the standard sign, but that logo should be incorporated always, because it's, you know, it's already known, you already are familiar with it, you know what you're looking at. But I like the idea of starting with parking. I think it will be hard to figure out how to help someone who is downtown to find the next public parking lot, and you know, and direct them there as they're driving. But I think it would be a really good exercise. It would be nice to get that ironed out and figure out how to do that in a way that actually works. So people start using those lots, and the lots feel like you're supposed to be parking there too. Sometimes when you look at the lot and it's, well, I don't know, is this really a public lot or is it not? I can't really tell. So I think naming the lots, for example, and having the name on the sign might be helpful. So you can also remember, oh yeah, I parked in the owl lot. Where? How do I get back there? You know, that kind of thing. So that we're having a place that we identify, and we're using signs that people are already familiar with, so it's easy to find. But downtown, imagine on Main Street, where do you put signs? How do you direct people to parking? It's a very you have to focus so much on just driving through, because especially if you're new to town or you've never been there. You know, there's where do people come out? What's happening here?
Lots of crosswalks and.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be a good challenge to engage with and figure out.
I believe we do have parking signs at the two lots that are adjacent to Main Street. The Water Street lot
Yep.
has one on the top of Water Street, but again, it's on a big sign. There's a list of, you know, waterfront, boat launch,
Yes.
this, that, the other,
Right.
public parking. And then the same at Weaver's Row, there is that one. And of course, Dame Road is right on 108, so it's visible. And everything else is right on street parking, so I think we have it labeled, it's probably just not adequately labeled, or maybe we need to look at it.
Or for example, so you're driving along, you miss the first one on your right, and then you know the one for Weaver's Row is too busy. You by the time you've read the first
Right.
three, you're already past it, and then you're out of downtown.
Yeah,
Right? That's it. And is there another parking lot coming up? Where do we advertise where the parking? Where do we start that? Where do you start the
Corner of Elm.
wayfinding process? I would think that it should start right at the town line to
Yeah.
direct people to public parking, to the nearest public parking lot. At least that makes the most sense to me.
well, the right thing that comes right at town line says no parking. That's the
Yeah.
first thing we say.
That's right.
is no parking.
No parking, April
First thing,
parking.
no.
That's right.
Before the welcome to Newmarket is no, don't do this.
That's a very good point, actually. So So maybe that's,
A lot of work to do.
I do have a question.
yes, ma'am.
I have heard MUTCD. What is it?
Manual and uniform traffic control devices.
I didn't figure out, you see, but now I was sitting here trying to figure out what the words were. I knew it was an acronym. Manual and what?
Uniform traffic control devices. Signs.
Signs. Great.
Any other discussion on wayfinding that we should
So map and exercise,
enter the notes?
next meeting.
Map, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun exercise too,
It will be.
should be. Updates on other transportation-related initiatives.
Does anyone have anything? Lindsay, do you, any update?
TAP, so TAP is the DOT's Transportation Alternatives Program.
That I know.
Okay, just making sure. So we have submitted an application for the replacement of the pedestrian bridge in downtown to be replaced and submitted to that, to incorporate that into DOT's TAP program to share on funding. And we had a regional review. Part of the scoring criteria for the projects that get submitted, DOT considers regional prioritization. So there are 3 projects that are getting submitted this round from our region, from Stratford region, and there's one in Durham, one in Farmington, and ours in Newmarket. And ours is ranked 3rd, but all 3 get submitted and go through the remaining, the regional ranking prioritization is 20% of the overall project scoring criteria. So then DOT incorporates all of their other scoring elements on the projects and determines which ones fit in the program and which ones do not. So the regional process has been completed, or should be completed at the end of this month. I think policy committee will be making their vote to advance those 3 projects in that order to DOT, and then DOT will finish their process, and I believe they are supposed to be finishing their process this spring for this round, so they'll complete their evaluation of the submitted projects, do the ranking, and determine whether or not the projects will get in the program for funding this round. So more to come on that, just working through the process. I think that's the only, I haven't heard anything on the road safety audit.
Okay, I was going to
Yeah,
ask about that.
they're still working through the concepts and recommendations, and they had told us spring, so I anticipate within the next couple of months we'll be hearing on that.
And what would be the follow-up process after that? I mean, how would that work?
Good question. Once the report is put together and the recommendations are distributed to DOT and the town, then we have opportunity to coordinate with DOT on potential implementation of, hopefully there are some easy short-term alternatives that we could look to implement within the next year. And then look at some of the bigger long-term projects as hopefully a cost share, possibly incorporation into the 10-year plan, just kind of see where that stuff
And
would
depending
fit.
on the recommendation. as to
Yeah,
what-
and some of that stuff may be eligible for TAP money, so we could consider submitting an application the next TAP round for some of those recommendations, but we'll have that report and be able to work with DOT on implementing
Are
some of
those
those.
biannual?
TAP, I
plans?
don't know.
No, call in my head, yeah. Don't know.
And it's also, it is DOT's roadway
Yep.
and right-of-way. So it is, at this point in time, DOT's decision on what gets implemented and what doesn't. We have the opportunity to make our preference known as a community and work with them on what we would like to see, and which of those timeframes we can try to work that in. So there's opportunity to do that, and then we will see where the possible roadway reclassification goes, because we did submit a request to DOT to reclassify 108. So maybe that would be an urban compact, and that ownership may change.
Mhm.
We'll see how that goes too. Haven't heard anything back on that yet either.
Okay.
Sort of transportation related, since we are covering transportation traffic items. We are getting close to the time to work on the deck repair for the Ash Swamp Road bridge over the Piscassic River. We have a contractor on board. We've been working through engineering submittals. It's the deck rehab that does require road closure. So Ash Swamp Road will be closed for roughly 4 weeks during the time frame that they're repairing the road, and we're looking at April for that. We're waiting on their traffic control plan so that we can have the full review and engineering review to confirm that the traffic control plan and the detour plan, sign package and everything is all in compliance with MUTCD. And the detour makes sense. So that's in the works, and there will be more public notice information
Do we
coming
know
out.
what the
coming.
detour options are?
It will likely be, so the bridge is between Four Corners
Mhm.
intersection and 108. So that's the segment that will be closed, and
Yep.
traffic will likely be detoured Grant Road to
Wow, South
probably
Main Street.
Grant Road to Main Street. I'm sure people will use Hersey Lane and Durrell to cut through, but that will be the route. And I believe CSX is trying to work on their railroad crossings, and there will be some additional road closures with that, but I'm not sure on the timing of that.
Right, I don't think we know that yet, do we?
I think
And
I've heard
what
different
did you say
things.
what the month was? That
April.
April, okay, so that's coming up real
Yes,
fast.
that is coming up soon. We are looking to do that and get that rehab completed.
Maybe it could coincide with school vacation, or at least overlap.
Well, it's 4 weeks, so it will
Wow.
incorporate school vacation.
Yeah.
That'll be in there.
And then some.
Well,
It'll start before school vacation, and hopefully maybe we can
and the
wrap
school
up.
district is looped in too, so that the
Yeah, I
bus
haven't-
routes can
Yes.
be adjusted.
Before we went ahead with the okay on the road closure,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we got confirmation from them that that would work, so we just need to
Okay.
verify the exact time once we have that traffic control plan.
All right. And there will be outreach to especially people who are live on that street.
Yeah, on that street, and actually Rick and I were talking about making sure that we can find opportunities to share that with neighboring communities, because there are several commuters that come from Lee,
Yeah.
Epping, Barrington, that use that
Oh, yeah.
throughway. So, yeah, we'll have like a public notice and a detour plan that we can share out to our surrounding towns as well, so their public works departments and road agents can share that information,
Mm-hmm.
spread the word.
Great.
Excellent. I sent out a quick email, forwarded an email from Brad Nichols related to the application that Coast is intending to put in to essentially replace the federal funding that we lost as a result of the last census, when Newmarket and Exeter and Stratham were divorced from the urban area.
Reclassified.
Yes, we were divorced, I think. And now it's considered rural.
Yeah.
Nothing changed, but it's considered rural now. So that there is funding for rural transit. It's in some ways it's a better funding stream, but in others it's not. There's not as much money available, and we're competing with other communities in the state. So that's always a tricky situation to be in, since there's a limited pot of money. And also, I think it's worth noting that the governor's budget did not include any funding for public transit at all.
Yeah, great.
Which would impact, all the transit providers in the state very significantly. The town manager, the town sent a letter to the section of the finance committee in the House that, I think it's section 2, I always forget, that is charged with the with that part of the budget, the transportation department's budget. So hopefully some money or all the money that that we had in the last budget will get restored, but I'm not so super confident. If we do show up and speak to it in person, the impact would be the greatest, much greater than sending letters, of course. So if you have the time to just go and speak, I think it would be very worthwhile. It's maybe not impacting our community as directly, but anything that happens to Coast, and Coast as, as our transit provider in town would, eventually filter down, even though, it may not impact us as significantly. It would certainly impact our ability to build on what we have for the future.
C&J.
I don't know. I don't think that they're
subsidized, aren't they?
Yeah, it doesn't come through the same
No, I don't think they're as
sources.
dependent on, Coast is definitely dependent on
Yeah.
the federal
Right.
money, so the state money was going to be a match
Okay.
for the federal funding, is what it boils down to.
Right.
And without the match, it significantly cuts what Coast is going to be able to access federally,
Right.
assuming that those federal funds
It-
still
yeah.
exist.
Striking the funds out of the budget, the state funds out of the budget, essentially means that we're limiting or eliminating our ability to access federal funding.
Yeah. Or it would mean that Coast is going to go back to the communities and say, we need more match from the
Right.
communities in order to access.
Right.
Which goes on.
Yeah.
Property tax roll.
And since we all pay taxes, federal taxes, I think we should, always keep in mind our ability to, to access those funds. Otherwise, they just go elsewhere. Okay, I don't have anything else unless we want to maybe talk about the next meeting and the possibility of including the topic of road, or not road, I can't call it road classification. What did we decide on, Lindsay, to call this?
Typology?
Typologies.
Typology, yes. I don't want to lose sight of that because I think it's a really critical kind of foundational work to do, so that, as we move forward with rezoning and figuring out what do streets look like, what are complete streets, what is a complete street when it's this type of street, and what's a complete street when it's it. I think we should stay on top of that and try to spend some time doing that work, the typology. If that's okay, I would like to reserve some time, maybe not next meeting because we'll have that map exercise, and that's
Might take
should
a
be
lot of our
fun,
time, yeah.
and we should have plenty of time. But maybe the meeting after that, we can spend some time on that and see and also begin to just keep our eyes open for some examples of what a neighborhood street might look like.
I think that would be helpful in the meantime, and like what we can, Bart and I had kind of talked about, sort of developing a library of pictures as you see examples of a neighborhood street or a downtown Main Street. We have some of those, but as you come across some of those
That's a
that
really good idea.
fit the idea, snap a
Picture
picture
like-
or Google snap a screenshot from like Google Street View or
Yes.
something like that. So we can just start building out a library and have more visual representation to be discussing as we're talking about the typologies.
So maybe that's 2 meetings from now, and then maybe the homework assignment is do Google Street View journeys and just capture. Or if you're out and about and going interesting places, you
Yeah.
can snap it too. And then meanwhile, you can funnel that information to us, and then we categorize it.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, we'll do the same thing.
Yeah, and we can do
Yeah.
the same, we can do it specifically for the roads that exist in our town that we've kind of
Yep.
already talked about which would be classified as different things, so that we can have an idea, we can see a picture of what it looks like now and what kind of alternatives we would think kind of fit that same typology.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we resend out that list of the types? You
Yeah,
have a list
yeah,
of
yeah.
types,
Okay, please.
because I think that helps.
Oh, yeah, and Carol wasn't even here for
No,
that.
I'm filling in a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of blanks
I'm
here.
sorry, I, that's my fault, I should
Well,
have.
no, I figured out,
Is
this
it-
time I figured it out. MUTCD just threw it. Just threw
But,
it.
it's both, again, both Portsmouth and Dover have had some really nice renovated streetscapes in the recent years. And, boy, we can take some photos of those and, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
that's,
jealous.
having pictures to look at what we see, and being able to look at the picture together and kind of talk about the different elements.
Yeah.
Would be helpful, and I think that's
Yeah.
probably even more productive than trying to draw a sketch of it, if we
yeah.
have real life pictures
Yeah,
of roadways that we think we would want.
Of course, it's getting to be the good time of year. The spring, once things start blooming, it just looks a little bit nicer than the monochromatic gray and snow.
Dirt encrusted snowbanks.
Right, yeah.
Icebergs. Yeah.
I saw a nice bird floating in the river the
Yeah.
other day. I thought that was quite exciting.
Might be the last time.
Any people riding bicycles on it?
It wasn't quite that size.
Yeah.
I think that's what all right, is there anything else that you would like to bring up or suggest? No?
I have a question, and I don't know if this
Yeah.
is the forum to do it, or if I should just speak to Lindsay about it privately.
Yeah?
I don't know if you're over this way, Austin. I was approached by somebody that lives at on Beach and Salmon, that off of Elm. And so there's a one-way streets, and they constantly have people going the wrong way on those streets. And the question was, how can they get some help? Who should they approach? Should they approach the police about enforcement? If they wanted, there is signing, but I don't think there's much signing, and there's not a lot of striping, or if at all. So they're just continuing to struggle with it.
Yeah,
Is that something we should talk about here, or should I?
The short answer is yes, reach out to PD, because that is an enforcement when people are actually driving the wrong way. We have had some discussions, town manager, police chief, fire chief, DPW director, and myself, about the signage that's currently out there, and pavement markings. There used to be arrows painted to show which was the right way. The anecdotal information that we had received was that it's people that are somewhat intentionally ignoring, and not necessarily a lack of awareness. So and there's also, there have been reports of people exceeding speed limit. So it's an issue that I know town council and town staff are aware of, and we've had some discussions about what can be done, specifically to the people driving the wrong way. Reach out to PD, because I know they're aware, and they try to have an officer out there to enforce. But sometimes they just, if it's not a problem for a little while, it kind of goes by the wayside. It's not a priority, so reach out to them.
Okay.
And I don't know, that would be something that that area is New Village, referred to as New Village. That is one of the areas that I think it's one of the things we've talked about, is potentially narrowing the roadway.
Yeah.
When it's a one-way street, but it's more than wide enough
Right.
for two-way, people drive two-way. And it's the shorter way to go, so they're just gonna go that way, whether they should or not sometimes. But that is one of the opportunities that we could look at for that typology modification. And when it comes time to resurface that roadway, we can road diet and remove some of that pavement, or have on-street parking and have bump outs to actually designate that it is one way, and it's that 20-foot or 16-foot. I mean, you need 20 for fire purposes, but 20-foot width, so it doesn't feel like it's just a wide open space and you can drive.
And the
Past other
20-foot width
vehicles.
doesn't have to be all paved in the same way either,
Correct,
you know.
yeah.
I think something to look at there is also whether, so if you can't take a right-hand turn into that street, how is that corner designed?
Right.
Yep.
If it looks like, you know, it's a regular
Slingshot.
street, just like any other one, you just go into it, right? But if the,
Yeah.
you know, if the
It's like the
street is
108,
designed
yeah.
so that a right-hand turn doesn't seem possible, then, you know, you've solved the issue of people turning into it, I guess.
Yeah, squaring it out.
That would be,
Yeah.
that would be a nice walkabout to go through the
Yeah.
neighborhood and see, because I agree, the streets there are so wide, not used much, and it's not like there's tons of traffic on them. And how could they be redesigned? How could they be re-envisioned? How would like the people that live in the neighborhood like them to be? I think that might be a good workshop-y kind of thing for us to do, that we could plan out and gain some experience from too for other neighborhoods. Because it is so established as a neighborhood, you know, fairly clear boundaries too.
I wonder, isn't there town, I know, is that Salmon Street? What's the one next to the railroad tracks? Is that Salmon?
Cedar,
That's Cedar. I think town has some land right there.
yeah, there's a pump station there.
Yeah. I
Well,
wonder.
there's also land that used to be used as a skating rink. When Tito
Oh, yeah.
Bolio was the fire chief, that flood that area, that depression. And since then, it's only been kind of used as lay-down yard for the railroad, but it is town-owned. It's not the railroad's. There's currently a bunch of ballast on it, and there has been talk before about making that into a little pocket park, but it's never really taken off. It was essentially a park when it was a skating rink every winter. But it could be, you know, the ballast could be spread and
So
loamed and seeded. Of course, then we just have to mow it.
my thought was, what if we did like a one-day event, had a cookout or something?
Yeah.
People come by, try to eat food, because
To
sell
get
food.
input, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be a great neighborhood meeting there.
Yeah,
There are a lot of young families there now
Mhm.
that had been there.
Well,
exactly.
I think that's why it's such a concern.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah, in
people
summer,
going
nice
the
summer
wrong
day.
way and speeding.
Yeah.
You know, when kids.
Well, and if it was a park right
Yeah.
there, I think that would slow people down from going the wrong way.
Right.
Um,
I think, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that sounds like an exciting thing to do.
Yeah.
Because going into the neighborhoods and, you know, bringing people together is part of that idea of, you know, establishing a sense of place. So. the
And
more
then
we can do that-
we might learn something, you know, that we,
Oh,
yeah, so
yeah.
sure we will, so.
Yeah.
I look at that little piece of land, and people, occasionally there'll be a car that's been parked there for quite a few days or something like that. Every single person who lives in that neighborhood, including the two condo complexes and the apartment buildings, they all have to go out that one way.
Exactly.
And it looks like a vacant lot with
Right.
stuff dumped there. There has been stuff dumped there
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, it does not look very inviting at all. All right, we'll pick that back up.
Pick it back
You
up.
took note, right, Bart? that-
Took note, next meeting, we're working with maps. Meeting after that, road typologies. In the interim, we'll start to suss out this maybe potential workshop in New Village.
Maybe when the
Yeah,
weather
weather
gets
gets-
a little bit more reliably
Right.
good.
That's right. Well, first we'll talk about what we want to achieve, and then
Yeah.
and then we'll figure out logistics.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
wonderful.
Anything else?
Yeah, volunteer for the parking study. That'd be great.
No, I mean, it's hard to commit to it, not knowing when it's going to be.
I know. Just your
I'd
future
like to-
self say, "I'm going to do this no matter what."
I will definitely be interested in doing it. I don't know that.
We'll figure it
the
out.
time will be.
I would be interested in doing how on a Saturday, if it's one of the Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I say that jokingly. So
I think that the high school students would
That's a
be
great idea, too.
Perfect for that.
yeah,
I mean, there are a lot of people who are out walking.
yeah.
It's not,
We could almost put something out on.
We're going to on the town website. Maybe we'll social media out
On
too.
that Friday update,
Friday
email.
update.
That
Yeah.
thing would,
Yeah.
I think we should definitely reach out to the high school even before we have
Okay.
the date. So just so that we have,
Yes.
know who to talk to.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Todd.
Yeah. Okay, super. I'll take a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
Motion to adjourn?
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
The ayes have it, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much. It is